Welcome back, my pretties. We've been overwhelmed. Let's just put it that way. I woke up today and I was like, oh my God, it's Friday. I haven't done any videos against my promise. And then you're like, you look at the boxes of all the Power Ranger props that have come in. There's like 17 large size boxes. And you're just like, I gotta go through that. And there's never enough time in the day. And I don't think anyone's ever said it before, ever. No, I think everybody else knows how it feels. You just can't get enough work done every day. That being said, let's crunch this tub for you guys. Oh, wow. That is a happy tub. Right off the bat, we're going to hit one of my favorite toys. Like, again, there are toys that are fun. Then there's toys you're like, I really like this stuff. And then there's toys you're like, I need that forever. So this is the Exo Squad Invid Scout Ship. And I still can't wrap my head around the concept where somebody at Playmates under Exo Squad team sat back and said, why don't we just put Robotech in here? Like it's such a strange concept to just cannibalize an entire different franchise's toys and bring them under your banner. It's a great idea to an extent, but it's like, huh? And of course, they're like, yeah, absolutely, we'll take that. It's just like free money for the rights holders of Robotech. When I was growing up, I remember barely seeing Robotech like larger figures. I remember seeing like the Cyclone as a kid. I watched the series, but I was just too young. And then I got the comic books, and then I saw all the advertisements in them of all these Alpha Fighters and Shock Troopers, and just, oh my God, it was so amazing. And of course, I can't find them. There's no eBay in like 1992, 93, and you're flipping out. You want an Alpha Fighter, you want all these glorious toys. And then I walked into Toys R Us randomly one day as with my parents, and I just see all of them. My mom was gracious enough to buy me all the giant size figures. So they produced the Shock Trooper, the Technical Battle Pod, and the Officer's Battle Pod, and all of these guys right up here. And one of the most unique parts about this Exo Squad Robotech is that they actually kept Robotech and the story of Robotech, and they never even butcher it. You know, it's crazy that, again, you cannibalized it and you didn't even change the characters. You're just like, in another universe. Anyways, they are lovely. They also had them just subtly different enough that you can tell the originals from the reissues. It's exciting stuff. I prefer the originals, of course, but when I was buying these things for $3.99, or you would go to toy shows and nobody would care about these things, and they'd be $5 each, I just couldn't help myself for trying to keep, as much as I could. But wow, I love this series. I love these figures. I love the designs, the artwork. Just Exo Squad is like one of those lost 90s toy lines that a lot of people are collecting quietly. Like, you don't go to the toy show and you see people say, hey sir, do you have any Exo Squad? Like, it just doesn't really pop up. But the values of them have been increasing heavily in value too. So it's just this weird juxtaposition between like value, seeing them, people's want at the toy shows. Again, I'm not sampling every toy show on the planet, interviewing every collector, but when I walk through the toy shows, you just see certain 90s and later toy lines, like Ben 10. Nobody brings Ben 10 to the toy show, but people are actively collecting Ben 10, or Bakugan, etc., etc. So that's a keeper. We're going to hit up the Star Wars next, and I was so proud of these pieces that I got them. I forgot now how I obtained them, but they're in minty shape. And these are the final Action Fleet from Episode 1. So Action Fleet was a Galoob series, and when Galoob was purchased by Hasbro, Hasbro continued on the series of Action Fleet, which are miniature vehicles, which had little characters that went inside, and they're just beautiful. Beautiful, simplistic, highly detailed vehicles. It was just glory days of Galoob pumping out amazing Star Wars items, and we miss that company. This is literally the end of our time. This is the final series, vehicles which are very, very hard to get. This is the control ship, and then we have the Sith Infiltrator. The market for these things have definitely gone up, and they've gone back down, and they've gone back up. The E-Fighter was big bucks, and the E-Fighter drops down. So I sat back, and I like these things, but I'm going to have to let all this stuff go. So I'm going to have to let go of all the action fleet because, first of all, the package art, same thing. There's uniqueness at the back of the package, but display-wise, the front is just a vehicle. And then I have so many of them. We're going to go through a whole bunch of tubs of them shortly. I like this stuff, but again, like, I came to this problem by liking too many things. I'm hoping the market's still up. I hope they're like $200 to $300 or maybe even $400 each, but I'm not going to be upset when I find out they're $200 each. But they were a wonderful series. And again, they're also episode 1, which is not like the most... It's probably because they just looked wonderful and they were really, really, really clean shape. And they're very rare. That's what attracted me to them. And I got them at a cheap price. You know that feeling when you get things so cheap? You just like, you'll never get it back for that price. But Galoob knocked out the ballpark so well that even Hasbro's like, we got to relaunch this toy line. Zoids for breakfast. Yeah. Z-Builders, which was a block concept where you peg each block together and you build the character around the blocks, and it's very posable. You know, it's like think of the Beast War ball joints, pretty much. But then you can disassemble them, all 4, into the Mega Chimera Dragon. You know, pretty cheaping out when it's just a giant head, and you call it Demon's Head, but you just know it's the head for the Chimera Dragon. But yeah, it's a Build-A-Figure. You have to remember, this is for toys. Toys for kids. Like this series a lot. This is the second series of the Build-A-Figures. And this is the first series for Leo Blaze. We got a whole bunch down here. We actually have a whole bunch to our right, and we have extras on top that I was sitting on. These would show up at Toys R Us or KB, and they were blowing these out. I don't think these have tags on them. $2-3 each. There's the Mosasaur. Everybody loves the Mosasaur. I like these a lot. The market for about $20-30 each. Sometimes I get $40-50, but they're not as beloved because it strays away from the normal Zoids, which are not super deformed. They're not block building. They're just highly detailed creatures, animals, dragons, monsters in robotic form. And people really want to stay tuned and vibe with the basic kits of those creatures versus these side pieces. So it's, you know, it is what it is, but all of it has to get a home. Just gonna keep one of each. Here is my C-3PO. So I started off with Star Wars collecting, even though I never had any Star Wars toys as a kid. And I'd pick these up at the flea markets and garage sales. So I painted this one up as best I could, and just as usual, as life for all of us, we never finished it off. We got like just to the last moment, and then we stopped. So we have a couple of fun pieces still left in here, as you guys noticed. We have Cops. Cops. You have to say that every time you see a Cops toy. Like if you're at a toy show, you have to play a portion of the intro. It is by the law of the Toy Society that was passed in 2014. People, get with the program. So this is not the best shape. I probably paid like, you know, $2-3 at a toy show. This is kind of the same thing as I was mentioning earlier. Toy shows in the mid-2000s, if you saw Cops and Crooks, the highest you would have paid is $15 each. That's it. Nobody really cared. A wonderful toy line. It just is a wonderful animation, wonderful stories, beautiful Hasbro line, highly posable, fully detailed, and then there's love, like the Exo Squad, but there's not enough love where it bubbles back up into the eye of the culture and community of today's world. I suspect something's going to happen in the future where we're going to see more Cops. That refers to the toy line, not me specifically with real Cops. Okay, just making a point on that. Not cursing, you know, myself with that. We have SWAT Kats. So SWAT Kats as a collector, you know, from the early 90s, but like seeing these things when you're looking back in the mid-2000s, we knew that these were very, very uncommon and beautiful figures by Remco. And a lot of people didn't care. It's just how it was. So we would pick these up at garage sales, flea markets, and toy shows loose. I had a whole pile. I went through the loose stuff like years ago, and I sold a whole bunch of these off. And then, they got to like 30 bucks carded. And then even then we were like, wow, like Swat Kats is a 30 bucks carded. That's sometimes a rare, but, and then boom, they just hit like 150 bucks carded each. And you're like, what is happening? But that's the thing. You would go to the toy shows and nobody would have these for sale. And it's just that's the juxtaposition of rarity versus pricing. About they're not worth even bringing to the toy show if a seller had them in 2005 because nobody would buy them for 10 bucks each. So you would still get one or two here and there at the shows because they just fall out and be like 5 bucks each. But not anymore, man. Those days are gone, and I miss those days like all you others. It's just, when toys were so much more fun and cheap and the market's not there. Granted, I turned it into a business, but I still, for the personal collection, I look back. I'm going to have to let this piece go. I have loose ones for my collection, and at this point, we got to tone the stuff down. We have Voltron, defender of my butt. Black line. So this is kind of like almost like an Exo Squad from Trendmaster. It's a little miniature figure there, but that's the best they could do. Same time frame. They probably took some inspiration from it, but it's a great idea. And you needed to have a Voltron that was not the reissue of the diecast from Go Line from Popey Bandai. Trendmasters wanted to make their own action figures and combining. So these were missile launching, 5 lines. They formed. They look pretty similar to the other Voltron, but you know what? This is Trendmaster's version. And of course, they made other versions, the larger version, the 20-inch jumbo version, and just Voltron lives forever to this day with a live-action movie. But I like this stuff, and I'm going to keep this puppy, but this market's definitely gone up in value. I would probably say 60, 75, maybe even higher now. The action figures don't get as much love. It's just all about Voltron himself. Vintage line from Panache, those figures go pretty well, but lovely piece. So not too bad. And we're going to wrap these things up with Yu-Gi-Oh! So I was at the point in the early 2000s looking back at all the toy lines, and I'm like, oh my god, this is be worth so much money. Yu-Gi-Oh's really popular. Let's buy these things for $3.77 and throw them in a tub, and these will be buku dollars in the future. And here we are. We're in the future, and it's worth nothing. And that's just crazy. Now, there are Yu-Gi-Oh toys that came with trading cards that are exclusive from like the GX series later on. Buku bucks for those, mainly for the trading card. These 10, 15, 25, maybe 30. There's a slight bump of interest in these right now for Yu-Gi-Oh! And these were the 3 that are there. The Jack, the King, and the Queen. And it's kind of a weird joke. So the market's still emerging on these things. So people are wanting them more and more, which is, many years later than it should be. And they don't really care right now about dead stock seals. So a person could have one with creases all over, and mine could be really mint like this one, and they'll still want to pay me $15. That's it. They're not in that zone, the auto zone. I think the auto zone has just one of the most lying names out there. Whenever you say AutoZone, I really am imagining this amazing, like a Sonic the Hedgehog level, the AutoZone. And it's just, no. Just rolls off the tongue perfectly. Let it go. I don't want to sell it for cheap, but at this point, I just need to move stuff out. It is what it is, guys. And we'll wrap this video up with the Savage Land. And again, affinity for dinosaurs, and I love X-Men. I was a Jim Lee X-Men baby. Lovely, lovely piece. I love the Savage Land concept. Toy Biz knocked it out with this piece. We have steel legs and tail and horns in this Triceratops. Mutant Dino. They did all these other creatures. Wolverine with the frog. Oh my god, that's Cable. Joseph, I'm sorry. Angel and Sauron. I like the Triceratops the most, and I liked him a lot so much, I kept him still in the box, and then I was downstairs about a few days ago, and I saw another one in the box. So I had to get rid of one of these. And this is a toy line in the mid-90s. They were just producing anything and everything, and some of it was for kids to play with. I mean, it was sold to Toys R Us, sure, but a lot of this was aimed for collectors. So it was a mix. And that's why a lot of these mid-90s and later Toy Biz X-Men and X-Force and all that stuff, you find these still sealed in the original package because everyone kept them. And that's what devalues them, is that because everybody kept them. So I would probably suspect this is only worth about, I don't know, 20 bucks tops. I mean, you know, it's a lovely piece. People like this stuff, but I like the fact that they put Savage Storm and Colossus. It's like, should we give the dinosaur a name? You mean waste our time copywriting some other unique name right now? No, just call him Colossus. Just, we're going to save a few bucks here. That is, unless you're going to tell me the Savage Land, he turned into a Triceratops. At this point, the bad writing of Marvel, I wouldn't doubt this like a new story at this point. But yes, we will keep one and we will sell the other. It'll be like Big Trouble in Little China at the very end, the girls with the green eyes. So I will open one to play with, to indulge my earthly pleasures, and then I will marry the sealed one, and life will be perfect. That's what good old Jack Burton used to say, driving that pork chop express. He'd always say, when in doubt, buy them out. So thank you for watching, and yes, the battery died out just as I got the last seconds of that video done. Isn't that how life works? But yes, we will have more stuff cooking and crawling for you guys coming soon.